Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Butterfly Blue, a deeply calming jasmine tea. A gentle white tea combining tropical fruits and butterfly blue pea flower. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. All right, thank y'all so much for watching again. Shout out The Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below. Go check them out. I guarantee you're going to like it. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's up? This is Big Wyno.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, man. Hard to tell where I'm from, to be honest. I'm currently in the Northwest. Shout out to Portland.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm originally from San Diego.
Okay.
Kind of born and raised out there till about my teen years. Got up here in the Portland, Vancouver area as a teenager. And then I was out here until probably about 17, 18 before I went to college out in Colorado. Did a little stint in Colorado, went to school for music education at Colorado Mesa University. And then, from there, I've just been kind of all over the freaking place and, found our way back, to the Northwest. So,
hell yeah.
Here I am. It's a long way to just say, you know what, I'm kind of just a West Coast kid,
Fair. Yeah, no, I feel ya. And then what got you into music initially?
I think I was always into music when I was younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was always about I think the first tape that I found was a rock tape and a Two Live Crew tape. So I had Dr. Feelgood from Alice Cooper,
mm-hmm.
and I had Two Live Crew. And I listened to these two songs for all the time, right? And I was like, man, this is interesting. I didn't know there was a difference in music genres at the time, right? I was just a kid, a Southern California kid, and we listened to everything, right? So I think that's my first experience of remembering music.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first experience of going this is something that I want to be involved with. I think, I was out here and I was about 13 years old and I saw people rapping and people singing. And I was like, I wonder how you do that. I didn't know. But a friend of mine had an old Zapp and Roger tape, the greatest hits of Zapp and Roger, right? And so he put on the tape and we would try rapping over the Zapp and Roger
Okay.
tape. And from there, I kind of fell in love with the art form of it. And that's where it started for me.
Hell yeah. Also, quality name drop, Zapp and Roger. I have a 4 record, all the greats. I'm a huge fan.
Oh yeah,
they're why I got into Talkbox.
That's
them and Chromeo. Yeah,
I could see it 100%. I could see it. Yeah,
hell yeah. And then actually that segues into this next question. Yeah. So we have a couple that we ask everybody just kind of as fun recurring foundation questions. And this first one is one we ask early. It's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
I was afraid of this question because I watched people answer this because I watch your show. So my first album that I ever purchased was, and this is crazy. There used to be this album. It was called The Bloods and Crips.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally the B side and the C side. They didn't have an A or B side. They had the B side for the Bloods and the C side for the Crips. And I saw the album and it was a CD.
Mm-hmm.
And these were when CDs were still kind of new. So they came in these big, long, CD things. And I was like, I just thought it was so cool. I was like, look at these guys. They look so badass. I didn't know what it was, right? So I was like, man, I want this album. It was the first CD that I ever bought was The Bloods and Crips, Bangin' All Wax, Volume 1. And I freaking wore that CD out. I mean, until it was scratched up. But yeah, and it's crazy that was my first CD that I ever purchased. But yeah.
When was the last time you ever, like, not obviously not the CD itself because you wore it out, but when was the last time you went back and listened to that?
God, it's been so long. Actually, I haven't heard that album. Probably, I'm gonna say like it's had to be over a decade by now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, when you're done with this,
yeah, right.
got something for the ride home.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, my life was different when I was listening to that. So. I feel like my life is in a different place.
No, definitely. But it's still fun to walk down that lane every now and then.
Yeah.
I mean, my first album was The Carter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I re-listen to that at least once every 3 months. Like that's just kind of always there for me. And then getting back to this though, what was the first live show that you ever went to? That was like one that you wanted to go to. So not just like the first one you were dragged to.
Okay. I was going to lie about this answer, but I feel like I can't lie to the people.
One would hope so.
Right. My first concert ever was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tour. I saw them in San Diego and I wanted to see them. Okay.
Okay.
Because I loved the Ninja Turtles when I was a kid. Right.
Valid.
So they actually had an album. At one point they put out an album, right? And I had this album, and it was a mix of like hip hop and rock and kind of like contemporary rock. I don't know how to explain it, but anyways, I was such a fan of the Turtles movies. Mm-hmm. I went to this. It was like a Coliseum in San Diego too. It might have been where the Gulls play or whatever, like their hockey team. Mm-hmm. But I went there and I caught one of the styrofoam pizzas they were throwing out. Because at the time it's
very on brand.
Right, on brand. Yeah, they had a sponsorship with this pizza company. Anyways, they were throwing out these styrofoam pizzas, and I would have never imagined, bro. I caught the styrofoam pizza and I kind of like had to get it out of a crowd of kids. And one of the kids that I took it from was the kid that I first got in my first fight ever with. His name was Geraldo. That was the time, like, we were both at this concert and we kind of made amends at this concert.
Yeah. Hey,
right.
Look at that. We're like bringing people together.
Exactly. First fight I ever got in, kidded with Geraldo, and me and him have been cool ever since that concert.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when everything's cowabunga, how can you not?
But I mean, outside of like, say, your more novelty concerts like this, I think the first concert that I like as an adult paid my own money for, like if we're going back to like the CD, like the first CD you ever bought with your own money, the first concert that I ever paid for with my own funds was an Atmosphere show.
Oh,
it was Atmosphere, and the openers were Idea and Abilities, Sage Francis, and man, I forgot the other group. There was one other group, Brother Ali.
Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah.
So I saw them in Denver, Colorado, and I was with a friend of mine, and that was the first time I ever seen him, and it was like the most magical experience I ever had in my life.
And that sounds like an incredible show.
Yeah.
I assume you didn't see him at Red Rock.
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in Red Rock, but I actually got the ability to tour with that whole group.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was able, like, later on, I think a couple years after that, we were, and it's crazy because Slug, the lead artist for Atmosphere, would go into these basement gutter parties and cypher with all the rappers. And I was there because I'm an opening act. So I'm like trying to be in the community and the scene.
Yeah.
It's still new to me, right? Like, I'm still excited. And just to see him showing up to literally, it was one of those hotels that you pay by the hour kind of motels, and it had a basement of all things that was about the size of, I would say, this studio here, and dusty, dirty, grimy, right? The CD player was just like, I don't even know why it was there, playing beats on the CD player, and just a bunch of just MCs, just grimy Denver MCs, just rapping and just ciphering, having a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Slug comes into the cipher like it ain't nothing. And here's the thing, everyone knew who he was, but everyone respected his space and just let him cipher without like kind of the fanfare of being Slug, right? And watching him do that, like, kind of, it changed my life, because I thought, man, you can be this level of an artist and still have the ability to like come into a cipher and not and be treated as an equal among these street kids who are trying to get to where you're at.
Yeah.
To me, that was just incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that was something we were talking about off camera, but I think that touches on just the ability to be present with your craft.
Yeah.
And that's such a big thing for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree.
Oh yeah. All right. Now we've got one last foundation question to go before we move into the more current stuff. But this is one of the denser questions.
Yeah.
And it's, do you have a moment, like a defining moment where music went from being just like something you knew you wanted to do to like the thing you knew you had to do?
Yeah. I mean, I think as an artist, we all have that moment, right? And I think for me, when I realized that there was artists out here in Portland, and they were going to studios, they were producing their own beats. They lived in the same apartment complex as me. I wish I could remember the name. But when I saw them create a CD and they brought home the CD, and I lived in the apartment next to them, and they were like, yo, check it out. And I was like, they're really doing it. They just made a CD of themselves. And at the time, you know, I get it, like independent, anyone could kind of make music, but this was my first time realizing these are people I know. These are people I've rapped with, I've hung out with, we've ciphered together, I've watched them make beats, and I thought it was all fun and games. But they have a tangible product in their hand right now, and I'm holding it. And I would bump that CD over and over and over because I was like, man, these guys are doing it. And I realized at that point, if these guys can do it, I can do it. And when I realized that I was capable of doing it, I was like, I just have to figure out how. And but that's the moment that was like the aha moment. Like, I can do this for real.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to just freestyle at parties all the time or battle at all these battles. I can actually put out a product and become an artist. I could be like those people I love to listen to. So I think, and I was probably like 14 when that happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really well-defined moment for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, I guess when you really think about it, that is such a like big one for, I think, anybody in music. Like the first time you have a thing to share with the world that can like leave the space that you're in.
Right.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
But now let's go ahead and let's move on to you in the current day.
Yeah.
And we're going to get the super easy one out of the way.
Yeah.
How'd you pick the name?
So, I actually didn't pick my name. I grew up in the streets. I was an orphan. So, I lost my father at 8 years old, to gang life. He was from California. He lived this, the street life. And so that took his life around my 8th birthday, about 2 days after my 8th birthday. And then my mom was also involved in the street life. So she was involved with like, trafficking and like doing, slanging drugs and being a part of that whole lifestyle. So I was not a part of her life probably from like 12, 13 on. So I was living on my own. I was on the streets, and I would try to get a job. I would lie about my age when I was younger to try to get a job. In fact, my first job was out here in Vancouver, Washington, at a Pizza Hut here.
Okay.
Right. I got a job at a Pizza Hut out here, and I lied about my age though. And when the time came for my first paycheck, they were like, "We don't have your check." And they were like, "Why?" And it was tied to my social security, I guess. So because the social security number knew that I was underage, it couldn't give me a check. I wasn't supposed to be hired. And then I told the manager, I was like, "Man, maybe I'm underage." And they were like, "Yeah." So they paid me out of cash on the till and they kicked me out, right? And I was like, "Dang, how am I gonna make money?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do to get paid?" And at the time, like gangs were like a really big thing. I lived in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of people who were involved in gangs and stuff like that. So I got involved in a gang, but I didn't have a name yet. Right. So I got jumped in and I didn't have a name. So I was coming off the bus one day with a 40 in my hand, and I'm like 13, 14 years old. Right. So I'm like jumping off the bus, and I have an Old English and a brown paper bag. I'm with a friend of mine, and we're jumping off the bus, and one of the OGs sees me coming off the bus, and he's like, "Hey, you, get over here." And I'm like, "Dude, all right, cool. I got to deal with this shit."
Yeah.
And so we go over there, and he grabs my beer, like he grabs my 40, and he takes a drink out of it, and he's like, "I'm going to call you Wyno, because every time I see you, you're on your way to a party or you're coming back from a party." And so that's how I got my name. He called me Wyno from that point on, and then everyone in the neighborhood called me Wyno. And I wanted to try to make it individual, so instead of spelling it like the proper way, I added a Y to it, right? Instead of W-I-N-O, I spelled it W-Y-N-O. And as I got older, like I created an acronym for it, right? That kind of like I created the acronym probably a couple years later for winning your nation over, WYNO.
Hell yeah.
Right. And yeah, and I think it's funny because I know a lot of people, they pick their own names.
Yeah.
But I come from a generation where it was different. You didn't really pick your nickname. Your nickname was kind of given to you. You earned it, or it was given to you for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And so now, like, I've tried to get, I've actually tried to kind of walk away from that name because there was, it's tied to some things that I'm not a part of anymore. You know what I mean? But it's so ingrained after, that I can't really walk away from it. And I'm okay with that because it reminds me of where I'm from, but it also propels me to where I go.
Yeah. No, I could definitely understand that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like when Mos Def changed his name to Yasin Bey and you're like, you're still Mos.
Yeah.
At least to me. Like, that's where you'll always be in my heart. Mm-hmm. Also, I think once you've established such a big foundation with a name, it's hard to move away from it. Like, rebranding at a certain point even becomes too much of a process.
Yeah.
But also, I think, it's cool that you were able to take, maybe not quite a term of endearment, but, a term of endearment and turn it into what is now, regarded as something as a positive nature when they hear it.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because people ask about it too, like, cause I'm in more professional settings sometimes and they're like, should I just introduce you as, this or that? And I'm like, nah, just introduce me as I am. You know what I mean? And I'll deal with the consequences of it. So, I
mean, I think if people know of you, your words travel before your name does. So by the time it shows up, anybody who is aware of you for the right reasons is already on the right page.
Right.
And if not, they'll learn it quickly, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process.
Yeah.
And I want to break it down into parts, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Okay.
So when you get inspired, you are in the mood to make music. Mm-hmm. What are some of the first things you do to start a track?
It's going to sound weird. Maybe it's weird. I don't know. Maybe this is normal. I clean everything in my studio. I have to clean every single, everything in my studio has to be, it's very similar to your setup here.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I have to basically make sure that there is nothing extra around or it's just clean because I'm going to tear it up.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, my first process is I clean out the area in which I'm going to write in, whether that's my bedroom or whether that's the studio, wherever I write, I clean the area.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that's part one for me.
No, I am very much the same way.
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm in the same boat. I'm like, all right, I'm going to tear this apart. Yeah. Let me at least put everything away so I know where it's at so I can do it quickly.
Yeah.
And like, even when I get home from like doing stuff, like when I'm like filming outwards and otherwise, the first thing I do when I get home before I like relax or anything, I put everything away.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to want to do it later or it's going to sit and get all mangled. So no, I respect that. That is, yep, I resonate with that 100%.
Yeah.
And then once you finish a track, so let's say you're finished writing it. So it doesn't have to be released or anything yet.
Yeah.
But once you have finished writing it, how long does it take you to feel comfortable, or how long does it take for you to feel comfortable performing it?
Probably probably as soon as the next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fast about that, but at the same time, like, I'll be comfortable performing it the next week, but would I perform it the next week? Nowadays, not so much.
Okay.
When I was doing 200 shows a year, then yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but now I'm a little bit more intentional with the type of songs that I write and how I want them presented on stage.
Interesting.
Because I don't want to just go up there and be a rapper on stage, walking back and forth, rapping over my lyrics, like doing all the typical things. I want you to have like an experience on stage. And even though I may not have the same budget as like Up in Smoke tour or something like that, right? I still want to be able to...
On those Travis Scott productions?
Or the Travis Scott productions to put a freaking roller coaster through the scene, right? But like, but I still, even if it's a smaller venue or theater or something like that, I still want to give an experience, a big show experience, and maybe not a big show experience, but even if it's an intimate show, I want you to feel connected to me. And so I want the atmosphere to be right. And I want to prepare that entire atmosphere. So I want the show and the set and everything to be intentional throughout that whole process of where I'm going.
Hell yeah. I love that. I appreciate the focus on the performance aspect.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big part of music today.
Yeah.
That like, I feel like the live show is something that I feel like if each individual artist showed up with just something that was a part of the presentation, it would really set them apart really quickly, because everybody usually just shows up.
Absolutely.
They're like, oh, do I have a microphone I can use? Like, if you show up with any kind of aesthetic thing, instantly going to stand out. Yeah. And then, you know, having a good show.
And that's why I seriously like, and I haven't said this actually before, but I would very much implore any artist to just get a fog machine.
Yeah.
You know, just $20 fog machine, anything to amplify what you're doing up there.
I would say, and 2 lights.
Yeah.
The small, like, you know, little thin parts, they're like $45 each.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just even those little things, like it's such a little thing, but I mean, like we had the first fog machine I got, it had a remote control. So in my pocket, I had the remote, so I could turn on the fog at will.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this song needs fog, or this, you know, this needs this or that. So I would say like that, you know, once we're ready for that, it has to be intentional.
No, totally.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And then, you know, you've been doing music for a little while, so you could stretch this question a little bit if you want. Okay. But for this next one, I usually have been asking people to look back on the last year. Okay. We'll say 2023 since we're still so close. Yeah. How has your process changed during that time?
I think my biggest change is I'm kind of talking about a little bit now, is the intentionality of things. Like, I don't want to just do things to throw them out there anymore. Like, even with this last project, there's a tone that I want to set. There's a story arch that I want to get through. There's peaks and valleys that I want to touch on. There's emotions that I want to take in and out of this in the process of it all.
And what brought you to that point? Like, what was the deciding factor to move more like thoughtfully, I guess? Because
no one else was. Everyone else around me was just doing what was popular right now, which is just put out a song, put out a million songs, put out a song a week for a year, because that's the pop way to do things now. You know, the pop way to do things is put out as many songs. Don't worry if you got a video for it or not. Don't worry if the artwork for the album cover is dope. Don't think about any kind of physical anything for it. Just put it out digitally, hope you get the plays, and move on. And I think I got so tired of that mentality. I was just like, this is whack. This is so stupid. Like, I could put out a million songs, but do I even like the songs that I'm putting out when I'm putting out a song a day, song a week, or however? Like, because we have the opportunity and the ability now with all this technology to put out a song every 5 minutes. But do those songs even matter? And the answer is no, they don't. They don't have replay value. I mean, and if people are into the metadata of all of this stuff, right? The fact is that the songs getting most replay value are the ones from the 90s and early 2000s and 80s and 70s. Like, and why is that though? Why are these people still getting played so much? And it's because their process had to be thoughtful like that. They had to put a whole album together where it had to be a cohesive message throughout the album, whether that's the message about themselves or about the times of that era. It had to be intentional the whole way through. And it couldn't just be like intentional for the song, and then, you know, 1 minute you're putting out a song about activism, and the next song you're putting out about shaking ass, and the next one you're selling drugs and killing people. Like, it couldn't be that. Yeah, it had to be like, yo, this is an entire arc here, and this album is going to last 1 or 2 years before you get another one from the artist. You know what I mean? And so it created a demand, and I was like, man, I am not happy with like all of this music coming out. And I know that the artists putting them out are so much more talented than what I'm hearing from them. And and I know that I can do better if I would take some more time, you know, to make this happen. So, I think that's what really kind of changed my perception on things and made me go, you know what? I need to think about what I'm doing here, because not only does it affect me as an artist, it affects those people that take the 5 minutes to listen to that song, or take the 20 minutes to listen to the EP or whatever it may be. Like, I just wanted to be more impactful in their lives, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely resonate with that. One thing I want to add on, because I was just thinking about this the other day, and I don't really bring it up a lot. I think if, as musicians, we all took the time to learn a song before we recorded it.
Oh yeah.
Like if you like, because back in the day, you had to memorize the song.
Yeah, if you're paying all the studio time to get it.
Yeah, that wasn't the yacht. You couldn't just like go home and like, set your phone down and just record into it. Like you had to know it.
Yeah.
So that when you showed up to the studio for your hour of recording time, you could knock out 2 or 3 songs, not one, because you were figuring out one part.
Absolutely.
And I think that showed that it made the songs have to be memorable.
Yeah.
Because you had to remember them.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't remember them, how is anybody else going to?
Yeah.
So that's just what you were saying earlier kind of made me think of that. So I just wanted to sneak that point onto there.
Absolutely.
So it's this conversation.
Yeah.
All right, but let's go ahead and we're going to move on to this next one. And actually, perfect segue. Let's go ahead and let's talk about your most recent EP, A Rose City Story Part 1.
Yeah, definitely.
Volume 1.
Yeah.
Which I mean, props on a January 1st release.
Yeah.
A New Year's Day or EP is always kind of a fun way to start things off.
Absolutely. And, it's funny because I had been sitting on it for a while and I was like, I was going to release it in December. And I was like, you know what? I've got releases for 2003 that are out. I want to start a new year with something different. And so with the Rose Story EP, like I've done a lot of music, in different veins, right? Like as far as like I've done like more of the battle rap stuff. I've done more of the poppy stuff. I kind of just, cause I was in for the last few years, I had been into this pop way of doing things, right? Which is, flood the market, put out songs, put out product. Plus I was getting paid to do songs for brands and songs for companies and things like that. So my mind was in this whole other space. It was still creative, but it was creative with a different purpose.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting funding from the city of Portland through Music Oregon, Music Portland, the Echo Fund, and some other grants and some other investors that came in and they were like, hey, we want a project, right? And I was like, okay, well, I've got this funding. Let's do something creative that I don't have to worry about like the algorithms and the numbers and all of that stuff. Let's just do something I can feel, right? So A Rose City Story came out of the fact that like I've told my story in interviews before, like where I come from and how I got here, right? But I've never told it in music before.
Yeah.
So my idea for A Rose City Story is to tell my story from the Northwest, like how I got my name, the traumatic situations that brought me to where I'm at today, like and to show like from trauma came hope, right? And from that trauma and that pain came like a good life, right? I was able to pull out and have a good life. And sometimes I deal with people today, a lot of people today, they don't know that trauma. They don't understand like the trauma that I went through to get here. So it looks like I just showed up. Yeah. Right. And so I've never really got to tell my story. So I was trying to make a movie for the mind. And I didn't want it to just be 5 songs. I wanted it to be 5 songs that clearly were like almost a screenplay that went from, point A to point B with a point. All the way across. Like each song stands alone as its own storytelling song of like individually, but I wanted the 5 of those songs that I put together to be cohesive as an entire story so that it would encourage you to listen all the way through. And I know that that's, almost an impossible task nowadays, but my thing was, I don't care. I don't care if it's impossible. I don't care if it's kind of not the norm right now. And I don't care if even the music isn't what the popular kids are listening to today. I want to do something that's true to my soul. And so I think I just let my spirit kind of out on this. And that's really like kind of what inspired it, is being able to tell my story, because the whole reason I got into music in the first place is because I lost so many people throughout the journey of my life. And I want to find those people again to let them know, look, we all came from this space and I'm doing good. And you can too, Hell
yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And now for this next one, this is kind of I've been calling it the humble brag moment.
Oh, yeah.
But looking back, and I mean, I guess, we're really going to take a lot from your most recent EP.
Sure.
But looking at your most current sound.
Yeah.
What are some of the like characteristics of the sound that you enjoy?
I think the biggest difference in this stuff is, to me, some of the songs sound like classics, like 70s Motown songs. And some of them sound like the soul part of it is the changing thing for me, because it's like, not only am I trying to like spill my spirit in there, but I've collaborated with soul artists on it. And, in a way that I feel doesn't seem forced. It's like a soul to soul kind of thing. And like the R&B aspects of it are real R&B aspects of it, as opposed to like, kind of now we have a lot of people that do R&B, but it's like a lot of auto-tune is kind of fixing their pitch.
Yeah.
You know, saving them time in the studio or whatever reason they're using the auto-tune for.
I mean, it's a sound of today for sure. Exactly.
And I don't hate on it or anything, but I'm just saying like the singers that we've had in there, they didn't have any auto-tune on their voices.
Yeah.
It's just more raw, and it may not sound as brand new, but to me, it sounds like when I listen to it, I know that it's a 2024 album, but it feels like a classic when I listen to it. And not in a bad way, not in a like, oh, that's an old throwback style, but it's these throwback styles, this Motown music for today.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I think that's kind of a different thing for my genre.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
No, and I mean, it was everything you said kind of really stands out, especially through the couple of listen throughs that I did. I'm going to be honest, I was stuck. I try to always have like a favorite one.
Yeah.
But Cut from the Cloth and Without You.
Oh yeah.
Both like,
yeah.
Man, they hit a little bit different. Like there was something about it that really just kind of brought me to both of those tracks.
Yeah. I mean, and Without You, you know, the special thing about that is I got to show that to David Ruffin Jr.
Oh, hell.
David Ruffin's son from the Temptations. And he was telling me that he's putting together a biopic about his father. And I showed him the song just to be like, hey, what do you think about this? What can I do to make it better? You know, because I use my friends and, you know, industry friends. I try to like show them what I'm doing and just try to pick their brain about like, hey, what can I do musically better here? Like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
And I showed him that song and he liked it so much because it reminded him of that Temptation sound that his father brought to the table. And he tried to get the song from us. He was like, yo, let me redo this song, because he's a singer as well. And he's accomplished in his own right, you know, but he's like, hey, I'm doing this biopic for my father. You know, I would love to take this song, maybe redo it, have myself on it, and then, you know, give you credit or whatever and put it in the movie. And I had to actually talk to the singer. His name is Billy On Air, the guy that I pretty much collaborated throughout this whole process with. And we had to have a serious discussion, man. Are we going to keep this song, or should we let, you know, David Ruffin Jr. have this song for the biopic and everything? And I think we came to the conclusion that, like, you know, let's keep our art. You know, let's keep it. And maybe down the road, there may be another discussion about it, you know, because I never want to
make another one.
Exactly. Like if he makes the remix or he wants to redo it, if he wants it after that, you know, the conversation is available. But the fact that he just appreciated the song so much, my thing is I was just hyped that he liked the song.
Yeah.
You know, but to make an offer on the song was something that like it was very touching, because it wasn't just for him. It was like in honor of his father.
Yeah. He wanted to be a part of the experience of sharing the story of his father with the world. And that's huge.
Huge.
And such like an honorable correlation. You know what I mean? I mean, the Temptations are
absolutely
iconic in their own right. You know what I mean? That's like a phenomenal thing to be associated with.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yes.
Like I was saying though, if you still have contact, you should just be like, hey, can we just make you a different track? Like we could totally leave you space.
Right.
But no, that's huge. That would have been an experience to just have happen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. All right. And then to wrap up this middle portion.
Yeah.
Actually, I lied.
Let's go Cut from the Cloth real quick, because
sorry.
Before we move on, only because we just recorded a music video for Cut from the Cloth.
Oh, exciting.
Yesterday.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so yesterday we finished the music video for Cut from the Cloth. Craig Doby filmed it for us. We recorded it in front of the Moda Center, and then, you know, other various parts of, you know, Portland. And that song too is like, for me, that was kind of my throwback jam, right? It has like this hip hop throwback kind of vibe, but it was intentional, right? Because we have songs that are not that way, but my thing is just in the storytelling process of all this, like, I wanted to remind people like, hey, look, man, it's a story of hope, it's a story of hip hop, it's a story of where I come from, all kind of wrapped into one. And I think overall the whole album, it's like when people ask me to compare it, I'm like, well, think kind of like Nas.
Yeah.
Think Slick Rick. Think storytellers. It's not because typically I like to do a bunch of punchlines and do real lyrical shit. But this one I was like, let me just tell a story all the way through, because I don't feel like that really gets done often nowadays. Like, especially in hip hop, you're hearing a lot of people that just rap words.
Yeah.
Right. And really they'll rap a 3-minute song, 2-minute song, all to tell you how great they are. All the metaphors, all the similes, all these, all the syllables that are going on in their verses, like everything is to say, I'm the greatest. Right. And I'm like, okay, I've done that. I get it. But like, what else can I do? And so I really like sought to try to be more of a master of the story, the art of storytelling with this thing. Oh, yeah. And so that's kind of like, overall, that's, I think, the different vibe of this thing is, my hope is that you put in your headset or however you're going to listen to music, and you can just lay there for 15, 20 minutes, zone out, and just get lost in this world just for a moment, even if it just takes you away just for a second. So. No,
you definitely hit the nail on the head with that approach for sure. Because it was one of those ones where it's like, usually when you get to the end of something super quick, you're like, oh, I made it to the end. I didn't even like realize. But like, while I was listening to it, I took something away from each song, could tell each song ended, which is appreciate, it's not just the same sound going and going. And then at the end, it circled back and it was almost immediately familiar again, which is nice.
Yeah.
Like just on the first listen through, to have the first track not go, a minute and a half in before you're like, oh,
yeah,
circled back already. Like it was very easy to distinguish. I'd gotten back to that first track. So it held familiarity even after all the other ones had gone through.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Now moving on to this next question. This is probably the densest question in the interview.
Okay.
But we've talked a lot about, your experiences with music, the actions, the reactions, things like that. But when it's just you and the music one-on-one, what does the music give back to you?
Man, here's my thing about music, and this is something you should know about people who do music, if you're ever dating one. Or if you're ever considering marrying one, right? I've heard a term, a thing that's been said, and it says, they say an artist is only loyal to his dream, right? And that means that in many cases, an artist will choose homelessness for his art over a steady life and a good life. Like we choose to put ourselves in situations that are not so healthy a lot of the times, if we're really going all out for the art, right? Not saying that that's right or that's healthy, because that's not everyone's path, but it's a common factor. It's not just about the music for me, because hip hop is a part of a culture overall, and that culture literally saved my life. I went from homelessness and gangs and runaway and jail and institutions of that nature to learning what hip hop culture was about, not just the rap music, but what it came from, and why I'm so connected to it, and where I came from, and how I'm a part of this conversation in this community. And once I fully embraced what that was, I was able to change my way of thinking. I went from listening to, Banging on Wax, right? Eazy-E and all of them. Not that I'm saying any of these guys are bad or anything like that, but I went from that mentality where I was just living that life to where I can listen to a Mos Def and a Talib Kweli and a Black Star album or an Atmosphere album and go, man, a KRS-One album, you know what I mean? And go, okay, there is a collective consciousness here that wants better for me in this community. And living this gangbanger lifestyle, living this drug dealer lifestyle, living this like robbing people type of lifestyle, there's one answer to that. There's one outcome for this place. And then there's this outcome that hip hop gives me. And the culture of hip hop, the true culture and nature of hip hop is not to keep me from progressing. It's to keep me from actually going to jail, right? It's like initially it's to give me something creative to do with my time. And I guess once I realized that, it saved my life because it took me out of the streets and it made me go, dang, I can get an education. I could go to college. I could actually do something with my life here. It made me believe in myself. You know what I'm saying? So if I had not had music in my life, and I know that this comes up for everyone who does music, but it saved my life in a way where like, had it not been for music, I would be in prison. I would be, you know, dead. I would be doing exactly the same thing I was doing as a early, you know, 20s teenager, you know what I mean? Even now in my 30s. So like, had it not been for music, I could clearly say that I believe that I would probably be dead by now.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And I think you explained it really well. I think, you know, it's definitely worth going back and listening through again. Just because it's cool how you were able to experience like kind of the entire movement and like the things that it stood for and incorporate them into your life. How you said it was more than just the music.
Yeah.
Because it's true. I mean, there's such a big culture behind hip hop. There's such a big community. And it really, you know, when you listen to the narration from the people who've been doing it long enough, that was the point.
Yeah.
Was to get away from that, to get to somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think that you really have immersed yourself in it long enough to experience that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's what I would love to see from more of these hip hop artists, just in our area in general, you know, everywhere really, but just, you know, you can only affect the places that you can affect.
You know, I think part of it is time.
Yeah.
Too. I think that there is a little bit of a changing of the guard at the moment because I know earlier we were talking about this, how like there was a struggle that, you know, we as early musicians, people in certain communities, people in certain settings had to go through. There, you know, we had to crawl so that they could run kind of thing. And that there's this odd takeaway at the moment that because people didn't suffer through those things, that they can't know other things.
Right.
But this is what we wanted. Like, this is what the point was to get to a point where these kinds of things didn't have to encompass such a struggle. But the problem is that, or I mean, at least in the way I perceive it, because, you know, only opinion, but in the perception of it, it's true. Right now, there is not as many of the same difficulties to write about. The experiences, the world is so different. But from that, I think once it gets past, because yes, right now, especially in the younger like demographic of music creation, because there aren't so many of those things, they have to write only about kind of what they see. Right. Is objectively in front of them. Yeah. And so I think there's going to come a time where they're just going to run out of things to say in that narrative, and they'll have to move back to something a little more conscious, a little more thought-provoking.
I feel we're getting there.
I really do as well. I think, especially from doing so many of these, like the attention to being conscious is clearly coming back in the narrative. And I think that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that moves the dial in a whole nother direction. And I'm eager for that direction. I'm eager for that change because I want to hear what people come out with in that world. Like, there's a lot of artists that you've interviewed on your show. I've listened to their music. I know what they're about. And I root for them. I root for them, but I also root for them to grow up, right? I root for them to grow up in their music journey, because once they realize that you don't have to just make music to make the audience happy, you can make music to figure it out. You can make music to have a message for yourself, and that message will resonate to at least there's billions of people. There's 8 billion people on the planet. I promise you, if you keep it real on the mic, you will find 1 million of those people who will want to be invested in you and your journey, because you're speaking what they cannot voice for themselves. And I think once you realize that man, everything has an audience in this world. Everything has 1 million followers in this world. Everything has 1 million something in this world, right? That people will appreciate. So if you are 100% yourself, and you start looking, you're going to find your 1 million people to make your career happen. You know what I mean? So I think right now what happens is people go, these guys have this and these guys have that. I got to get that. And the only way to get that is to sound like him. And that's just not the truth. The fact of the matter is we're more connected than ever, which could be a good thing for some or a bad thing for some. But if you're an artist of any kind, whether it's music or dance or art or whatever, you're going to find 1 million people that will look at your art, listen to your art, and see your art and go, you know what? That is the most valuable thing to humanity, right? So you just have to remember who you are in the art, I think.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think even to add on a point, it's important to know why you do music. Like, I think that at least to ask the question, why are you doing music? And it can be any answer. That's the best part, is it's not a right or wrong. No, it's just acknowledging it. You have to understand why you're doing something while you're doing something. It's not a conversation I think a lot of people choose to have.
Yeah.
Because they think the why is what comes from it.
Right.
The why is rooted in the reaction and not the choice for action.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy that we're even discussing this, because as you were saying that, I was thinking, like, the discussion that we're having even now, I feel like probably people have had with themselves. They've been like questioning what is the right way, finding the answer, the right way for them, and then avoiding it. But like, the thing is, for instance, I have a very street story. It's very typical of what you expect for a hip hop guy to be saying. There's people out there that grew up with both, like totally opposite of me. Both their parents lived in a well-off, middle-class neighborhood, but they have struggles and they have points of view and perspectives that I don't understand, that I won't know. So if they keep it real with me on music and they put out their music and their truth, then I may find that some of their problems are so relatable to me and no one's been talking about them. Right. And so it's like, I know I come from a different socioeconomical background to where I had to like kind of climb to this area where these guys started at that area and want to like kind of pretend that they came, they're coming back down into the grime. And I'm just like, nah, you don't have to pretend, dude. Be who you are from where you are. And your story is still valid. Your struggles are still valid.
Well, there's still a million people.
And there's, still a million people.
Same situation as you. Resonate with that audience and grow that audience, and then let it transmit further as you grow, as you get better.
Yep.
And like, as you learn how to tell the story to a wider audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that was, went on that one for a little bit, but let's go ahead. And for this next one, I'm actually I'm going to open this question up a little bit. This is kind of more of a free platform space for this one. Yeah. Because you have a ton of achievements. You've done so many things. You've worked with so many people. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and list all of them. You know all of them. Right. So I kind of want to give this moment to share like any just like phenomenal stories you have. Yeah. But then I also want to touch on something that you have coming up. Right. I believe it's USA Breakin', if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I would love to hear all about that first. Just tell everybody like what that entails and the achievements that are coming from it.
Yeah, definitely. So for the last 2 years up until December, I was the treasurer for USA Breakin'. USA Breakin' was the first organization to prepare Team USA for breakdancing in the Olympics for 2024.
That's incredible.
Right. Yeah. I started as a volunteer for this 501c3 USA Breakin'. So, I mean, there's a long story of how this all works with, how to get a sport in the Olympics. And if you're familiar with like surfing's journey and skateboarding's journey, it's very similar. There's just a lot that goes on with it. A lot of things that, especially in hip hop, we don't have the same kind of like, like a gymnast has like, these pikes are, this move or this move, this is a 10-point move, or this is a, so in breaking,
holding up the cards.
Exactly. In breaking, we don't have that, right? It's based on an opinion of trusted judges who, you would hope, are going to give a non-biased, non-biased judgment of what's going on at the event. And that's how it's been for years. So to bring it to the Olympics, a lot of things had to change. A lot of growth had to take place. And USA Breaking was a part of that growth. And I was proud to be a part of the work that was done there. You know what I mean? It's a tenured thing. So since it's a nonprofit, you sit on the board for, up to 2 to 4 years. And yeah, I got to be at the beginning stages of that journey, and throughout to where it's at now. We got to watch Team USA get picked, and watch where we're going in 2024. So 2024 Paris Olympics, we're gonna be able to support Team USA out here, and yeah, man, it's a wild thing, right? Because again, like I touched on the culture of hip hop a lot, and this is part of that culture, right? Like breaking, MCing, DJing, graffiti writing. There's so many elements involved in the culture, and this is the one element of the culture that I believe has been kind of the most slept on. Rap has, when it comes to music and your voice, like you have a lot of power in your voice. You become kind of an alchemist of sorts, right? When you're putting words in the world. Same with the DJ, putting music in the world. The bands that play this hip hop music, like you're an alchemist. You're putting that sound wave into the world. And it's all tangible things. You can put it on a record. You could sell the record. You know what I mean? Same with art. Like for the graffiti writers, they could put it on a canvas. They can sell the canvas. DJs, MCs both have the ability to make, albums. The breakers have been the only ones that haven't had an ability to create a tangible product out of their art and their craft. So this, I believe, is such a step in that direction, in a positive direction, because out of hip hop, like I look at like the culture of hip hop. If you look at hip hop as a people, the B-boys are kind of our warriors, right? Like they're our frontline soldiers, kind of like our Marines, because they're the physical ones. They're the ones who are out there doing this physical acts of like just crazy acrobatics, cultural dance, like all of the things in one, they're like our rain dancers. They're our fucking, you know what I mean? They're our warriors, and
draw attention to the music.
Exactly. And without them, the music wouldn't be what it was. You know what I'm saying? Without the B-boys, there would be no breaks the way that they sit now, and without the breaks there would have been no rapping. There would have so the DJs like started this, but the B-boys really carried it and leveled it up, and they have never been truly honored for the work that they've done within the culture. They've always been a byproduct. They've always been the background dancers or this or that, but they've never been on center stage. And so I'm very proud and excited to be able to finally give them a stage this big. I mean, I didn't give them the stage. Obviously, it's an Olympic thing, but, to be able to be a part in any way, even a footnote in this conversation about how, this thing is growing up and becoming hopefully something bigger. My hope for it is that because people will see at the level that it goes to with the Olympics, they'll understand it, and the corporations and the companies that provide the kind of foundational funding to kind of level up the game will see this as a really valuable asset that can't and shouldn't really be ignored,
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's been a real crazy journey dealing with all of that, because there's so much politics involved in it. There's all of the
I could begin to imagine.
Yeah, but at the same time, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest.
No. I mean, it's definitely, also just to kind of touch back on what you said before, this is kind of the biggest stage.
Yeah.
That this could ever, like, that it could ever, the Olympics are bigger than like Madison Square Garden, you know what I mean? Like that is the world's largest televised event.
Yeah. So
like in a way, it reached a level that none of the other elements can.
Right.
But also what's cool, at least a thought I had while you were talking.
Yeah.
This is now a new platform for new music to show up on.
Oh, 100%.
Like ice skating has always had music in it, but how many other of the sports in it even have music as an element?
Right.
So it's cool that this now gets to elevate other parts of it.
Absolutely.
Because it has to be included. They can't be breakdancing to classical music. You know what I mean? Like it has to be hip hop. It has to be like, so that's just, man, I never even consider, like, wow, that's really cool.
And everyone's running for it too. I mean, like, and here's the thing, just to be clear too, Breaking for Gold is the organization that ultimately, USA Breaking started. Breaking for Gold came in afterwards. These artists coming in through this new door, it's kind of opened up because of the Olympics, are amazing. Like the level of talent. These guys are next level. I mean, a lot of people don't remember, they remember breaking from like the 80s, right? And 90s, and they remember them from these old school movies. So they have an idea of what breaking is, but they don't really have any clue of what it's become.
Yeah, where it's at now.
I mean, to the point where if you look at like the male gymnasts and even female gymnasts, they've been getting trained by B-boys and B-girls to do some of the floor routine moves they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think, at the end of the day, I hope that they continue to recognize breaking as a sport. I know that there's a lot of growth that has to happen. I mean, obviously we just celebrated last year the 50th anniversary of hip hop, but it's still very young culture. It's still a baby culture. There's still a lot more growth that's going to be coming. And I feel like the people that are in place right now, that will be going forward, the younger generation going forward, is like a very promising generation. So I'm eager to see what these kids do with the culture as they become leaders in it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And thank you for sharing that all with us. Like,
Yeah.
definitely wanted to make sure we touched on that.
Yeah.
And like I said, are there any other like wild stories you could tell, anything like that you would just like want to encapsulate forever on here?
God, wild stories. I feel like I probably have a million wild stories, but they maybe just seem so regular to me, I guess. Right. But I think,
and by wild, it doesn't have to like, not so much it doesn't have to be like a negative connotation,
Sure.
like one where you're just like, wow, I can't believe all these things happened and worked out.
I go through that every day though. That's my problem. Right. Like, so like, man, I just got back from like last month. I was in Miami, LA, and San Diego. Right. And we had shows in Miami. We had situations in San Diego where we got to meet some really influential people, and we had some great meetings in Los Angeles that lead us to, kind of what we're doing here in the near future in March. But I think the craziest thing for me is that I'm finally able to not only like support myself, right, with doing what I love, like the creative process of it all, and being able to pay your bills by doing what you love. But now I've been able this year and last year to finally pay other people and to make sure that their dreams are also funded. And that has been like a weird thing that I haven't fully processed all the way yet, is that, yes, obviously selfishly, we all want to be able to take care of ourselves with the things that we love the most.
Yeah.
But I think what's even more impactful to me right now is I'm doing music and I'm doing all of this stuff. We're signing new artists and we're signing dancers to our crew, and we're giving them ownership of all this stuff, and they're making money with us. And we're like, and we're making money as a team now together. And to me, that is probably the craziest. I know it seems weird, right? Because that's what we all aspire to, but it's crazy to meet this level and understand it enough to feel comfortable in it and not be scared by it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Well, that's definitely not the answer the question was asking for.
Yeah.
I think perspective wise, that's a really appropriate answer, because sometimes, the craziest things we can see happen is the things we've been working towards our entire, time doing whatever it is we do.
Yeah.
And so that, I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
All right, but now let's go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Okay.
And for these ones, the questions are all made up, so the answers can be too.
Okay.
And I'm sure this first one's going to be a little tough for you because you've worked with so many people.
Yeah.
But right now, if you could work with anybody, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Okay.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
This is a good one. They have to be alive. Anyone you want to work with. I would say, man, dude, first thing that's coming to my mind, so I feel like I got to say it, is Paul McCartney.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Because I don't know if you just heard the latest Beatles track that they put. That's like the last Beatles song they'll ever do. They used all the CGI to put it out, and make a video of it or whatever. It's like a whole Disney production. Not that I care that it was through Disney or anything, but I think someone like him, with all that musical background, all that musical experience, all of the turmoil and ups and downs and situations he had to go through, I feel like being in that energy, in a room with someone like him, and just creating with somebody like him, I don't know what that would bring out in a person. I don't know what to expect in a situation like that. And I think it's a little scary. Like, I know that if I ever got the call and they were like, hey, Paul McCartney wants to do a song with you, I would be like, I would be so scared.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to say yes. I probably, here's the thing, even saying yes would be scary, but because I know I want it.
Yeah.
But I would say yes. And I think that whole process would take me to a whole nother level of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
If this is really happening, I don't know. I feel like, but I think that would be my one. My alive guy would be Paul McCartney, because he's seen so much music history. Mm-hmm. He saw the inception of the culture that I'm in. Mm-hmm. I want to know what he thought about it. like when it first came out, right?
Yeah.
I want to know what he thought about how as rock changed and became what it is now, as funk became funk, because he was in an era where it was rock and roll. But like now, like you can attribute so many different styles to that level of rock and roll that are not even considered rock and roll now. So I think Paul McCartney would just be dope.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd ask a ton of questions about John Lennon. So
obviously. Hell yeah. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
So many. Man, I'm trying to think because there's got to be some good. You know what? He's local, but I have connected with him, so he's not going to count. Man.
We can probably broaden the question a little bit just because you do interact with so many people. Who's somebody you just haven't gotten to work with yet?
I'm going to say Ilmac.
Okay.
Right? Because I come from the battle background. I watched him growing. Like I grew up kind of watching this guy, seeing him take over, become one of the Mount Rushmore battle rappers of all time from Portland, from St. John's. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm like, you know, and I also think, you know what? A better answer to that too, someone I haven't met that I would like to meet and I would like to work with on any kind of level, Win.
Okay.
Win. I would say Win.
I had a feeling that might have been your answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, man, her trajectory is insane.
Yeah.
Like the things she's doing now and like the mark that she's making, especially for this community, huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would definitely say Win. Yeah. She's the one I haven't met. I haven't really got to work with on anything yet, but I do have a feeling, and this is just me putting it out in the universe, by the end of the year, I'll fix that.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody, you know what to do. Add her in the comments. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits.
Yeah.
But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, guaranteed best lineup, guaranteed best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It can be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
Man, on top of a fucking pyramid in Egypt.
Okay.
If that was like, if there was no limit, right? I would say that. But if there was kind of more of a realistic venue, you know, it's funny as you were saying that, I was like, anywhere in the world, there's Madison, there's O2, there's this and that. And know what I want to do? I want to do that Sphere in Vegas, dude. That thing looks bad.
That is definitely becoming a recurring answer.
Yeah.
And because you brought it up, I have to say that I've been saying this every time somebody says this. I'm putting this out there.
Good.
Everybody keeps wanting to do the Sphere.
Yeah.
Why are we not capitalizing on IMAX theaters?
Oh, bro.
They're basically baby spheres.
I manage 10 IPs for these Bored Apes, right? Like which is an NFT. I'm not going to get into that right now, but they are making an immersive experience for these artists that I manage for their IP to do a whole IMAX situation in 600 theaters right now.
See, I'm glad somebody's actually doing it. I've been talking about this forever. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like they're not using them all the time anyways. Yeah. And it's like I said, it's basically a mini Sphere situation. Yeah. So cool. That's good to know. Yeah. I feel very affirmed in this thought process now.
Absolutely. They're making whole venues that are immersive, like the immersive theater experience, but they're not theaters. They're actually like places you go in. You have the experience. You see what's going on. It's all interactive. It reminds me of, if you haven't been to Disneyland in a while, there's this new ride that they do for the Star Wars ride, and it's completely an immersive experience, not just a ride. Like you're running through, you're getting locked up, you're having to escape from the rebels or whatever, but it's a fully immersive situation in that ride. And then as you go through the area, you're tapping on things with your phone. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the new era that we're kind of moving towards.
Yeah, very much. Like a
all entertainment,
multi-layered performative experience.
Yeah. I mean, really right now, that's the only thing I aspire to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what shows will look like when augmented reality becomes more of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much VR.
Yeah.
Because VR, a world separated, but augmented reality.
Yeah.
Where like what you see on the glasses is in addition to what's happening in front of you. Because on top of things being limitless, like, not like planning light shows can be completely different because you don't have to use so much like that, like external things can happen. But even on a supportive level, people with sensory issues
Oh yeah.
They can have a scaled down version so they can still enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Without so much of the things that cause them the issues. And I'm really excited to see what comes from that.
So recently I was talking to Ilmac and he was discussing with me something his partner was doing in the Bay Area. It had been done in Los Angeles. It's like part of the holographic tech, right? And they're doing immersive shows where there's like 3 layers of these holographic screen, whatever they are. I'm not quite sure the terminology of it all yet. But it's made to enhance the play in the theater and in this play that they're doing, right? And I've seen visuals from this thing that they're doing, and it's a new level of immersion. Yeah. Because now you have like these holographic kind of situations going on. You have the settings changing instantly behind, so if you're in a dream sequence on stage and you're acting out the dream sequence of your song or whatever, then everything is playing behind you in the stages and it looks like it's coming out to the crowd. So they have like almost like a 4D idea of the experience. Yeah. So I do feel like not only are we headed towards that we're kind of there in a way. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely excited to see what comes from that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then one last hypothetical question. Yeah. And this one is slowly becoming one of my favorite ones. Okay. I'm super excited for this. But if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have just put out an album yesterday, they could have not put out an album in 100 years. But if you could get one more album from anybody, who would you want an album from? Yeah. And when would you have wanted it to come out?
This is a good one. So, who would I want an album from? A brand new album. Trying to think of the artists I miss right now. I mean, I hate having the cliche answer. In my mind, instantly Tupac comes to mind. But I would want a Tupac album from like 2020 because I would want to know what like the 50-year-old Tupac feels and thinks and aspires for and hopes for in 2020. He died when he was 25. He was still a kid, just kind of, like young. When you're in your early 20s, you're still figuring life out.
You're just starting to get to that momentum.
Right. So he had so much wisdom and depth at 25. We actually expect people like him to have been full-grown men with all the wisdom of a 70-year-old. We put that on people like him because he was putting out stuff that had that tone. Yeah. But the fact is, he was a 25-year-old guy when he died, and he had been through all of this stuff in a very short period of time. Now, giving him a decade or so to process what all of that moment meant, and then being able to record something and basically maybe fix his mistakes that he felt he made, talk about maybe some of his regrets, also talk about some of the things he was spot on about, and discuss how he feels about where it's at now, you know what I mean? And his hope for the future. I feel like having that voice and that perspective today would just be really interesting to me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And you're definitely not wrong. Him and Biggie, and they both come up a lot as the like would love another. And coincidentally, around that time period as well, like that window of time is when everybody wants an album from. I always wonder if both of them were still alive today. Yeah. What would a collaborative album between the two of them sounded like? Because at this point, they would have squashed it. You know what I mean? Like that would have been sorted out. Right. Like an album with them two together now. Yeah. Would have been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, and that I know that the Tupac has got to be the most cliche answer ever, but
he's so influential. I don't think it falls into the realm of cliche. Yeah. Just like how most over 50% of the first album answers are Eminem.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like I think that it's like I said, it's not a cliche. It's just a redefinition of how influential he was. Right. Every time somebody chooses that answer. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, he was so young. Yeah. And to define so much for so many people so early in life. Yeah. Like it could only come from somebody who was well ahead of their years in the mind space. And I mean, you know, his death and like everything attached with it,
right?
If anything, also kind of shows that as well, because, you know, to lose somebody so powerful, so young, from a dispute. That's really the shortest version of it.
And he was our John Lennon. You know what I'm saying? He was our Lennon.
If he was still alive today, the influence he would have had on the music of today would have been astronomical.
Yeah.
Like the way that things would have progressed, the way that they would have changed, the way sounds would have been introduced and defined. Like he would have been one of the, you know, the Mount Rushmores of the deciders of what happened with that sound.
And he could have also been one of the people that we go, we don't listen to this guy anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's, you know, who knows what he would have brought to the table.
Where he would have gotten to at the end.
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing. He could have been at, you know, at the 2020 year mark where I would imagine I want to hear him. That could have been a moment where, like, at that time, he could have been doing all of this for money or all of this for reasons that are just not interesting to me anymore. Right.
Yeah.
But to just know, I guess I just would want to know, like, would I still be a Tupac fan today? Had he survived through all this, and would he still be the Tupac that they love in the 90s, or would he be this? What would he be? You know, where would he be at? And I think the same can go for like John Lennon or Kurt Cobain, right? Like they like died pretty freaking young, you know, and would they even be relevant today?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I know that they're relevant forever because they were that, you know, die young, right? Like the good die young kind of situation. And to have a joint album with Kurt Cobain and Tupac, I feel would have been a real like possibility had they survived, because I mean,
after Nelly and Tim McGraw,
right?
Things off the table.
Right. And I think, you know, what would that have sounded like?
Yeah.
Right? What would that collaboration have done?
Yeah.
You know, for music. So I don't know, man. Tupac is the first thing that came to my mind, though, when I thought about the question.
No, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I would have also accepted Big L, who
I love Big L, yeah.
I think today would have still been doing exactly the same thing.
Right.
That man was just...
Well, and I'm a huge fan of Big Pun, Big L. I mean, all of these guys, are like amazing artists that changed my life.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
No, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start wrapping this up.
Yeah.
What can we look forward to for the first half of 2024?
Yeah, so we have this album, so we're doing our promo push until the end of February. In March, we have our first show in Los Angeles. It'll be on pay-per-view, so look for the link.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, follow me and look for the link on the pay-per-view, but we're doing a rap battle. We're doing a Web3 kind of conference party satellite event for LA NFT.
Oh man.
And we're doing a lowrider like situation. We're gonna have some the lowrider culture, Chicano culture, mixed with this Web3 tech culture, mixed with this battle rap hip hop culture, all in one place. Yeah, so it'll be in Los Angeles at a place called the Flat Factory Studios in downtown LA. And that's going to be March 23rd. So that's going to be our next show that we do. I have a lot of great people on there with me. Bremer Baden, who you've interviewed, actually.
Shout out Bremer Baden.
Yeah, he's signed to our label, so he'll be one of the marquee artists that is performing that night. Myself, and then we have a guy named Nino Bless, who, if you're not familiar with him, look him up. He's amazing. He was on Slug's last album. He was on Atmosphere's last album, Word, as a featured artist on his album. But they've done great music together. And yeah, man. And one of the leaked battles, I leaked this a little early, but I was so excited about it, I had to share it. But one of the marquee battles for the evening is going to be Ilmac and Geechee Gotti. Okay. And these guys are, if you're not familiar with the battle rap world, they basically are like some of the top, like I would say the top 10 battle rappers of, you could probably say all time. Yeah. Easily. And people they wouldn't even argue. They wouldn't even disagree with that, I don't think. But yeah, man, that's going to be a battle a long time in the making, and also, yeah, man, we're doing some major things as far as like getting ownership to people and artists for this March 23rd event. So yeah, March 23rd, and then we're going to be we're already planning a really big event. We do a marquee event out here called Skillfest PDX. We'll be doing that August 24th. And that's, way far in advance, I know, but I want people to kind of get ready for it.
You guys, any early promotion you can do for big events never hurts.
Right. And this one is going to bring a whole new level of, like, nothing has ever been seen like this in Portland ever before. I'm bringing the biggest names in the Northwest together for an event that's totally based on the culture of hip hop. And I always have b-boy battles. I always have the dancers represented. I always have the artists represented and the MCs represented. It too will be on pay-per-view as well. I'm really like working on these pay-per-view, simulcast deals with other companies as well to really like push it out there, because I want people to see the Northwest and value it and want to be here more often.
Yeah.
So if we can get more people in Portland, if we get more people out here to just, Seattle's the stop they make, right? So my hope is like, don't forget, like, Portland is here and it's amazing. Like the level of talent that exists out here is dope. And it's not, it would not behoove you to sleep on the talent that we have out here. And that's not just hip hop. It's also our rock scene out here is thriving. Our punk scene out here is thriving. Our funk scene out here is thriving.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So I really just want to get attention to our area, right? Like, and I know that everyone's goal is to do that, but I feel like the tangible way to do that is for me to be bringing the artist out to other places in the world, and them to realize, I've been missing something in this one place. Where are you guys from again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then bring them into the conversation out here. So. Yeah, March 23rd, next big thing that we got going on. We'll probably have a tour during the summer. I've already been working on that. We have some really big partnerships going on. Props to the Meta Rebels, by the way, for supporting so much, yeah, man, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Going on.
Definitely looking forward to all that. For this next one, go ahead and look straight at the camera and tell everybody how they can find you.
Definitely. If you are looking to find more about me, you can hit me up at Big Wyno, BIGWYNO, any platform, whether Instagram, TikTok, it doesn't matter. If you want to look up the music, I'm on all platforms as Big Wyno. Again, BIGWYNO. Anywhere you can find music, I'm going to be there. Additionally, what else can you do, man? You can, all the internet stuff that you do, type it up, Google it. I'm there.
Oh, yeah. And there'll be some stuff on the screen and down in the stuff as well. All right. Now we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Go ahead.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below. Go check them out. I guarantee you're going to like it. With that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. Okay. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's one not a lot of people know.
Okay.
Deep cut. But it's one you think everybody should know.
Easy. Aesop Rock, Bazooka Tooth.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yo. Okay. Man.
Yeah.
Deep cut with that. I love that. I love that. Also, shout out Aesop Rock.
Yeah.
I want to be on the show. You're not.
Actually, I got a guy.
Oh, hey.
That has, maybe, it might not. Yeah, Aesop, let's get you on this show, bro.
Everybody add him in the comments with as well.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I just want to give you a huge, huge shout out for all the work that you're doing. In fact, the reason that I wanted to be on this podcast is because I was such a fan of it prior to even being on it. I watched it. I watched like 50 episodes in one night, like just back to back. I was binging your show.
Oh, man.
So I just want to just let you know that I appreciate what you're doing here for the community, for the scene, all in general. Like I love the setup that you have here. Being here in person is even more amazing than what I could have imagined or expected.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your time and for everything that you're bringing to the community and to the table, because it's very important that we don't overlook our creators that are providing these type of platforms. So I really appreciate what you're doing out here, man.
Oh man, thank you. I really appreciate that. I never know what to say when people
I know.
Like this, but no, it means a lot, and I'm really happy to be able to do it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Big Wyno.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. jamming.